Well, hello, welcome again to a reading through of 2 Corinthians, and I got up to chapter 8, verse 16. So he begins, this is about Titus and his companions. Charis de to theo to donti tein autein spudein huper humon ente cardia titu. I'll just pause there, better go to a new page. Grace to God, the one having given, from Didoni, literally the same zeal on behalf of you. Now, in is often used interchangeably for ace, so it's literally in, we would say, into the heart of Titus. So grace to God, the one who has given the same spudon, the same zeal, perhaps, on your behalf, into the heart of Titus. Hotitain men paraklesin e dexato spew die oteros de hubakon auth hyretos exalthen pros mas. Now we get a fairly rare example of a men and a deck here, which is worth over translating a little bit. So, because on the one hand, he received the paraklesis, the, well, perhaps here appeal or entreaty, but being, hubakon often used in place of just the participle, the verb to be, but being even more zealous, even more keen, he came out to you, auth hyretos, well, we'd say of his own accord. It's an interesting word, it's a classical word. It's made up of outer, of autos, meaning the self, and the hyretos is connected with hyreo in the middle, the sense of choose. So it means self-chosen. So self-appointed, self-chosen, of his own volition. So just to do that a bit again. So because on the one hand he received our appeal or entreaty, but being even more zealous, he came out to you of his own volition. Sun epempsamen de met autu ton adelphon hu ho epenos ento eu angelio diapason ton ecclesion umonon de alakai keratonethes hupoton ecclesion sun ek demos hemon sun te cariti taute te diakonumene huf hemon prostenautu tu kuriou doxan kai prothumian hemon stelominoi tuto me tis hemas me setai ente hadrote ti taute te diakonumene huf hemon. This is a very long sentence, and in fact it's a little bit awkward because it starts out and it's got a relative clause here, but there's no main verb in the relative clause, and then he moves on to something else. So Paul often does this. He starts off intending to say one thing and then gets sidetracked and forgets to round off the sentence properly. Anyway, so just to translate it, we sent along with him. So the sun and then the meta emphasizes that we sent off, might say, together with him, the brother of whom the epanos praise. So whose praise, but there's no main verb for this noun. So you've got to supply esti perhaps. So whose praise in the gospel, understand, is through all the churches. You could supply perhaps something like a verb of knowing, so is known through all the churches, something like that. So we sent out together with him the brother whose praise, well, understand, is in the gospel, is known or is through all the churches. And we're not told who this person is, and there's been many different views, different versions about who this person being referred to is. Many say that it refers to Luke, but there are lots of other options as well that various scholars have suggested, and you'll have to look at the commentaries on this. Umonon, we get the umonon alakai, which is good classical. We've seen that before in Paul. But not only that, but also, so not only is his praise in all the churches, but also keraton tonerthes. This is something like having been appointed by the churches. This is an interesting word. It's classical. It's connected with care, the hand, and the ton is connected with the verb teno, to stretch. So it's literally their hand having been stretched out. In other words, it used to be the original meaning was to elect somebody by a show of hands, by people stretching out their hands to vote. And then it just simply comes to mean having been appointed. So not only that, but also having been appointed by the churches. Again, you've got to put the verb to be in, I think. So he is our sun ekdemos, travelling companion. Now this is ekdemio is to go abroad, so to travel, and then sun ekdemos simply becomes a travelling companion. So, but also having been appointed by the churches, he is understood our travelling companion with this grace, with this perhaps work of grace. This is understood by scholars to refer again to this collection of money. So this act of grace, this free giving, which is being administered from passive from diaconio by us with regard to, and the autu is awkward here, it's the glory of the Lord and our prothumian, literally zeal, but possibly here readiness, willingness, goodwill, it's sometimes rendered, I think. Stellominoi, of odd use here, really the sense of the middle of, and stello is to draw back. Stello has a huge range of meanings. It originally meant to arrange things, to put things in order, and then in the middle it apparently has this sense of to avoid or take precautions. I'm not quite sure how it gets to that meaning, but that's what it is apparently. So avoiding this or taking precautions in respect of this, lest, or it could even mean just arranging this, which would make more sense etymologically, lest someone, this is from Marmai, to find blame with, lest someone might find blame with us, en te hadroteti, this is from hadrotes, this is a third declension feminine abstract noun. It has a range of meanings. Again, it can mean vigour or abundance or munificence, probably the latter in this case. So in this munificence, which is being administered by us. So just to do that, it's quite a long sentence, just to do that again fairly quickly. So we sent along with him the brother whose praise in the gospel is through all the churches, and not only that, but also having been appointed by the churches, he is our fellow traveller with this grace, having been, or this work of grace, so this is this free gift really, perhaps with this gift which is being administered by us with regard to the glory of the Lord and our own goodwill. Stellominoi, well, I think I'd rather translate this as having made this arrangement rather than taking precautions, which seems a funny meaning of it. So having made this arrangement, having done this, lest someone might find fault with us in this act of munificence, which is being administered by us. pro noumen ga kala umonon enopion kuriou alakai enopion anthropon. This expression here again is slightly idiomatic, and it appears to be a quotation from Psalm 3:4, which you can look up and see there. So it's something like, for we took thought beforehand in respect of what is kala here, honourable, not only before the face of the Lord, but also in the face or before men. This is it, enopion, literally in the face of, but just means before. So not only before the Lord, but also before men. Sun epempsamen de autois ton adelphon, hemon hon dokimasamen in polois polakis spudaiononti, nuni de polus spudioteron, pepoi these pole te es humas. We sent with them our brother, whom we tested, and who is, this is the onta, agreeing with adelphon, who is, almost conscientious really, who is zealous, spudion, oftentimes en polois, in many ways, in many situations. So being even, eager, I should say, oftentimes in many situations. Nuni there, we've had that nun it with this deictic it on the end, but now it's very emphatic. He understood is even more keen. He is more keen by much, so adverbial here, by his his much confidence, his great confidence, which he has in regard to you. This is a noun, it's pepoi thesis, third declension, feminine abstract noun. It is connected originally with the verb patho, but then this is an abstract noun formed from that same root, pepoi thesis. So by his great confidence, the one which he has in you. Ate, now verse 23 and 24, the whole section here is a little bit garbled. The grammar doesn't really, it's constructio ad sensum, the grammar doesn't really work very well, and you've got to paraphrase it a little bit. So it's ate huper titu, koinonos emos kai es humas sun egos, ate adelphoi hemon apostolon ecclesion, doxa Christou, ten un endeixin tes agapes humon, kai hemon caucasios huper humon es autus in diagnumenoi es prosopon ton ecclesion. Now we get ate and ate. We have to supply something like whether, someone asks about Titus, so whether the situation is about Titus, and then it's almost a colon or a dash here. He is my koinonos, my partner, and my sun ergos, my fellow worker, as humas, in regard to you. And so whether it is about our brethren, it's almost whether there is questions about Titus or whether it is about our brethren. These are literally apostles of the churches. Now a lot of translators don't like using the word apostles here because it technically has a different meaning. The apostles are those who actually saw Jesus in the flesh, and Paul claims to be one of these himself, but here it's being used in a much more general sense. I've often wondered whether Paul didn't really place that much emphasis on the idea of the apostles, except perhaps when it came to himself, but Others translate here just delegates, those who are, because it is from apostello, those who are sent out. So, so whether it's in regard to Titus, he is my partner and fellow worker with regard to you, or whether it is about our brethren, the apostles, or perhaps delegates of the churches, doxa, well, glory of God. Well, perhaps is that in apposition to all the rest of it? It's just some take it that way. It's just the glory of Christ, I should say. Tain un endexin. Now this next verse has no main verb in it. It's got a participle, endake noumenoi, and then a cognate noun, endexis, third declension, abstract feminine noun. People often translate the participle as though it was an imperative, which is not usually done in Greek, but that's probably, we have to do something because there's no verb in the sentence. So therefore, if I just do it literally, demonstrating the demonstration of our love, others take it as, therefore demonstrate to them the proof, or the endexis, the demonstration of our love and of our boasting on behalf of you. So it's almost that this is Titus and the Adelphoi, it's an apposition to that really, that they are demonstrating to them, the endexis, the demonstration literally of our love and our boasting on your behalf, to literally a face of the churches. So this is idiomatic here. It's probably something like in the presence of the churches. Others say openly to the churches, but I think it's more closer to the Greek to say in the presence of the churches. So just to finish off that last little bit, again 23, which is 23 and 24, very difficult grammatically. So whether it is regarding Titus, he is my partner and my fellow worker with regard to you, or whether it is about our brethren, these are apostles or delegates of the churches, the glory of Christ. Therefore, it's something like they are demonstrating to them the demonstration of our love and our boasting on behalf of you in the presence of the churches. And that is the end of chapter 8.